everybody, how's it going? See me okay? All that good stuff. I I don't think that you suck. But I'd like to welcome everybody out tonight. I guess depending upon where you live, it's tomorrow's Thanksgiving. So if you're somewhere where you celebrate that, I hope everybody has a great Thanksgiving and all that jazz. But tonight, what I wanted to do is over the last couple of weeks, there's been quite a few people that have been coming forward and saying stuff about that some of the stuff we've been doing is just, is a little advanced. So what I wanted to do is just kind of do something a little bit easier. This, so this is kind of for the beginners out there. And even if you're not a beginner, this is just some really easy songs that you can just pick up like right away. And I don't know what you guys do to celebrate the holiday and stuff, but what I used to do with my extended family, we would get together because there was other people that were my extended family, ex-extended family is quite musical. So, everybody would bring their guitars and stuff, and we'd sit around and just play songs, and people would sing, and we'd have a pretty good time. So these are some songs that you could pick up and you could do like work on them now, and you could play them tomorrow for your family or friends or whatever. So that being said, make sure you get in the description for this. There's a link where you can download the tabs for these songs that we're going to be going over. And kind of depending upon how it goes and how much time we have, I might even show you a couple more that there isn't tabs for, but they're easy. There's just stuff that you can pick up really fast without having to have the tabs. I mean, you could literally, if you got a pen and a paper, you could just write down the chords. Most of them are, just songs with like 3 chords in it. So, all right, I hope that sounds good to everybody, and I'm hoping that you can see me and hear me and everything okay. And let's get started. Sure, okay, that is on. All right, so the very first song, if you look at your transcription, is the song "Chasing Cars" by Snow Patrol. So I've got my acoustic guitar here, and this isn't an acoustic song, but you can still play it on your acoustic guitar. It's really easy. This is a really, really easy song to pick up. So it's "Chasing Cars" by Snow Patrol. So we're going to start off. It's just a basic power chord that I'm sure you've already done before. So I'm starting off here. I've got my first finger on the 9th fret of the D string, and then my first finger on the 7th fret of the D string, and my third finger on the 9th fret of the G string. So that's pretty much the chord that we're going to be doing for this, and we're just going to do a couple little alterations of it to play the song. And this is entirely made up of 8th notes. So we're going to start off as we're going to pick the D string 1, and then we're going to pick the G string and. So if you pick that as a downstroke on the D and then an upstroke on the G, you can just return back because it's just 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and just like that. So we have 2 measures of that, 1 and 2 and And then for measure 3, we're just going to flatten that note that we're playing with our first finger on the D string. We're going to flatten it from the 7th fret to the 6th fret. And we're going to pick it the same way. And we have 2 measures of that. So if that's like a big stretch for you, a lot of times, especially if you're a beginner, this is where it comes from. I've heard this a million times. My hands are too small, my fingers are too short to play guitar, because they'll try to do something like this and they have a really hard time making that reach. I've got little hands, so if I can do this, anybody can do it. But what can make it a little easier is that instead of using your 3rd finger here on the 9th fret of the G string, you could use your pinky. So that way when you move down, it's not such a big stretch. So if that's easier for you, that's totally fine to do. It's not going to change the way the riff sounds. All right, so the first 2 measures, so the first 4 measures, and this whole thing is only 8 measures long, and it's the whole song is just this. The move down, and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then for the 5th measure, we're just going to take our first finger off so that the D string is open. 2 measures of that, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then put it back down onto the 7th fret for the last 2 measures. So the song starts with 2 measures of this, and then it ends with 2 measures of this, and then it just repeats. Like if you're not familiar with this song, it was really popular. Like in the late 90s, maybe early 2000s. I'm not 100% sure on that. My memory sucks really bad lately, but yeah, it was really popular song. But that's the whole song. Verse, chorus, everything is just that. So you'd play through it. So now we're on that last 2 measures. Now it's starting over. And that's it. That's basically the entire song. So it doesn't really get much easier than that. Where you can play an entire song and you only have to use 2 fingers and play 2 strings. Gotta drop the thumb. Not sure what you mean by that. So yeah, so that's Chasing Cars by Snow Patrol. Does anybody have any questions about that particular song or anything before we move along? Or just questions in general. This doesn't say in the description, but these are always, Q&A. I like it when there's lots of, interaction. I like when you guys talk to me and stuff. It makes it, this a more fun experience for me as well. So if you've got questions or comments, put them in there and let me see. All right, well, I guess we can move along then. So the next one I'm going to look at is yeah, I think you're actually right. I think that song, that Snow Patrol song, it was on the soundtrack to a movie. I don't remember what it is. I mean, I could have literally watched the movie last night and I wouldn't remember. Memory is terrible. But this next song is it's a Pearl Jam song, but it's actually a cover. And I do not remember who originally did this song, but the song is called Last Kiss. And so this is another one where the verse and the chorus is the same thing. It's just the same chord progression. So for this particular one, we have 4 chords. So we've got G major, and the way I'm doing this G major is there's two ways that, well, you probably already know there's like, for most chords, there's multiple ways that you can play them. But for this open G, there's two ways that you can do it. You can, on the 3rd fret of the G, a 2nd fret of the A string, the D and G strings are open. And the way I'm doing it, I'm on the 3rd fret of the B string and the 3rd fret of the high E. Now you can play it that way, or you can actually play it with the B string open. And they're both G's. There's 3 notes that make up a major chord, and for a G, it's G, B, and D. So if we've got playing here, that's a D, and if we play it open, it's a B. It just kind of depends on. As a general rule, I like this one with the D in there because I like the way it sounds better. It's my personal, preference. But there are some songs where if you don't play it with the other way, it just doesn't quite sound right. But this one, it sounds fine to do it this way. But if you've already learned G this way, it just isn't that big of a deal. Do it that way if you want. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. Frankie Wilson and his Cavaliers, that's who originally did this song, Last Kiss. I don't think I've ever even heard of that. But anyway, I chose this song just primarily because it's a pretty cool song and it's easy to pick up. I mean, it's super simple. So we've got G, and we've got E minor, and we've got C and D. So those are our chords. So for the strumming for this, if you're looking at your transcription, you can see that just looking there on the first measure, that we're playing a G. We've got a quarter note, and then an 8th note, and then a quarter note, and then 3 8th notes. So I want to kind of go over, and this is something else that'll help you out, if you're a beginner, or even if you're not a beginner, maybe this is just something you didn't know. But as a general rule, and this isn't 100% of the time, but the majority of the time, I believe that this is correct. When you see a quarter note, it's a downstroke. And when you see a 8th note, if it's 2 8th notes together, like beat 4 on this is 4 and, it would be down up. So let's just say that you had just 4 quarter notes. And so you were 1, 2, 3, 4. Or if it was all 8th notes, then it would be 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So that's just as a general rule. Now with this one, we've got a quarter, an 8th, a quarter, and then 3 8ths. So if we strum this down, down, up, up, down, up, down, down, up. So it's 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and. Now, you want to, also as a general rule, a strumming pattern is going to start with a downstroke, and when it ends, when you're changing chords, it generally ends on an upstroke. Now, again, this isn't, a set in stone rule 100% of the time, but the vast majority of the time, especially with Western style music, I mean the Western part of the world, not country Western per se, but that's how it works. So if I'm playing this and I'm down, down, up, down, up, now when I grab the E minor, I'm ready to start it on the downstroke. So I'm down, down, up, down, up to E minor, same strum, down, down, up, down, up, C. And that's basically the strumming pattern. So, it's oh, torture you with my singing too much. But yeah, that's basically the whole song. So like on the verse, you know, it just repeats. Has that last G, and then you have like a couple of measure rest, and then it just starts over again. So that's like the entire song, verse, chorus. All right. Another thing that I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about too, and again, this is kind of for beginners, people who are like struggling with strumming and changing chords and stuff. When you change from one chord to another, whenever possible, you want to do it without having to lift all of your fingers off. Now, depending upon what chord you're going to, that isn't always going to work that way. But like here, got G, and the way I normally play, hi Rocky, way I normally play E minor is like this. But if you wanted to simplify this to make it a little bit easier, you can keep your first finger where it is and move your middle finger to the second fret of the D string. And then when you want to switch to C, now your middle finger is already in the correct place. Now when we switch from C to D, we have to move all of our fingers. So sometimes that's just going to be the way that it is. But if you work with trying to make chord changes like that, with leaving one finger pivoted whenever possible, it helps smooth that process out. It makes it easier. It makes it easier to make the chord changes, and so you can play without looking. And so that's another thing too, is that, and everybody is guilty of this, you, especially when you're new, you feel like that you have to constantly be watching. You're looking over, you're like, okay, here are my fingers on for the chord, and I'm going to look over here and strum. Then I'm going to look back over here and make my chord change. I'm going to look back over here. So it's like you're watching this really small tennis match. Try playing without looking and let your ear tell you if you're doing it right. So if I'm not looking at my hands, let's see. So G, E minor, C, D. So I know I'm doing okay because it sounds good. But if, that doesn't sound good, I look down, I put my first finger, instead of on the second string, I put it on the third string. Let your ear tell you when there was a mistake. Then you look, correct it, and move on. If you really get it, if you get really comfortable with doing that, your playing will improve drastically. I mean, I can't count how many times I've sat with a private student, tell them to play without looking. They don't think they can. Then they're surprised at how well they can. And then after a week of practice, it's like a night and day difference generally. Let's see here. When should I worry about fret wear? When your frets get worn. When if the frets are worn enough that it's causing you to have problems, like something that happens a lot, like on acoustic guitars, is people are always just playing in this first position. So these frets get really worn. So then you'll start getting a lot of buzz because it's hitting the frets over here that are higher. Or you'll get like a notch, and then when you go to bend the string catches on it. You'll know. I mean, once you start having issues with your guitar's in tune, but certain chords sound like they're out of tune, you have a lot of buzz, things like that, then it's time to have it checked out. Is that guitar plugged? Do you mean plugged in? It's an acoustic electric, but it's not plugged in right now. Oh, good. Well, yeah, switching chords is like one of the hugest problems for beginners. Is that they'll get down where they can play the chord, but then when they go to switch from one chord to another chord, they end up running into a bunch of problems. Like I said, it's common, but it can be gotten past. Uh, Here, I'm going to give you guys a bonus. So this is the most boring exercise ever, but I guarantee if you do this, it will improve your chord changing. So here's one of the problems with changing chords quickly and efficiently for beginners is that you start learning chords and you're like, okay, I'm gonna play this C chord. So you look at your chord chart and you're like, okay, so my first finger goes here, and then my second finger goes here, and my third finger goes here, and okay, yeah, that's a C chord. And then they immediately go, okay, well, now I'm going to play this other chord, a G. So you're like, okay, first finger goes here, second finger here, here. There we go. And then they go back to play that C chord. And what do they do every time they build the chord? And then G. So you end up getting these muscle memories to build the chords one finger at a time. You don't want to do that. You want all of your fingers to move at the same time. Now, eventually that will just happen over time. That's what it did for me. This exercise is something I thought of after the fact. So here it is. It's really easy, but it's boring. Put your fingers on for a C. Give it a strum to make sure it sounds correct. And then while looking at your fretting hand, try to lift all three of your fingers up at the same time, approximately a half of an inch. Slowly. Try to hold the shape of the C chord in the air and then set them back down and strum. Now, the first few times, this is probably what's going to happen, is you're going to give it a strum, you're going to lift your fingers up, and your fingers are going to do this, and then you're going to set them down, and they're going to be in the wrong place, and then when you strum it, it doesn't sound right. So you look, you correct the problem, lift, set, strum. Do it slowly. We're not trying to see how fast you can do it. We want it to be nice and consistent. So if you do this, you want to warm up first too, just play some chords, play a song, whatever, warm up for 5 minutes or so. And then do this exercise for 5 consecutive minutes. It's going to seem like eternity. Like I said, it's not fun. And no matter how good you get at it, it still is just strumming a C chord. But here's the thing. If you do this for 5 minutes a day, after 2 or 3 days, you're going to be really good at it. Then try lifting your fingers higher, like go an inch. When you can do that, let your fingers completely straighten out, and watch what happens when I go to do this C now. When I come back, boom, all 3 of them line up. That's what you want to have happen. And with my private lessons, I've had students be able to do the ones who've actually tenaciously done it 5 minutes a day, usually after a week, sometimes 2 weeks, they've got it. Now, then the end result is this. You're like, I want to play a C. You just reach up and grab it. Now, if you do this with C, you don't have to do it with the other chords. I'm not sure how this works. I came up with this many years ago. But if you just do it with C, the rest of your chords will get much, much better. And then, like I said, when you're going to practice changing from chords, try to keep a finger planted whenever possible. Okay, boy, lots of stuff coming in. Yeah, small tennis match. Oh, Darren, cool name. Do you have any tips for strumming while muting up? Actually, yeah, we're going to be getting to that in just a minute. Do old strings cause more fret wear than fresh strings? I don't think so. The fret wear is caused because the metal that the strings are made out of is harder than the metal that the frets are made out of. Unless you have a guitar that has stainless steel frets, stainless steel frets don't wear out. They're more expensive and they're hard to work with. I don't have any guitars with stainless steel frets yet, but I have guitars that I've had. This guitar has had to have a fret dress on it. I bought this brand new in like 93 or 92, and I've had to do a fret dress on it. I have several guitars that have had fret dresses or all new frets put in. Palm muting can still be a really cool technique with acoustic guitar. The guitar that's next to me at the right, is that an Epiphone or something from the Gibson family? That one back there, that kind of like all shiny looking one. If that's what I guess that would have to be what you're referring to. That's actually a Spear RD250 HG. All right, so yeah, so let's move along. Let's see what we got here next for the acoustic. This one, this is an Ibanez. It says AE on it. I'm not even sure what the model is, but it was I used to have this student that he ran a pawn shop as his business, and he would get guitars in, and sometimes he would trade me guitars for guitar lessons, and that's how I ended up with this, because it's an Ibanez with a it's acoustic electric with a cutaway, and it's got nylon strings on it now. I put ball in nylon strings on it because I wanted to see if the piezo pickup in it would work with nylon strings, and it does. It's actually really cool. It's got a broken string on it right now, or I'd play it, but yeah, it's it's just kind of a cheap, beat up guitar. Well, I'm assuming it's cheap. It doesn't seem like it's one of their higher end instruments, but I traded it for a month's worth of guitar lessons, and it's been a good guitar. It actually stays in tune really well. It probably stays in tune the best out of every guitar that I own. Let's see, what do we have next? Oh, okay. So the next one we have is The Only Exception from Paramore. So this is another song that the verse and the chorus is the same thing. It's just 3 chords over and over and over again. But this one, to be in the key that they're in, you're going to use a capo. So I wanted to do at least one song with the capo because this is a question that I get asked all the time in lessons, and then just like, in the comments on YouTube and stuff like that, people asking about, using a capo. So, or asking about buying a capo. Now, the capo, there isn't really much to it. I mean, the whole purpose behind it is it's shortening the length of the guitar to put it into a different key. So like this particular song, which I already forgot which, we're capoing at the 4th fret. So I put the capo on the 4th fret. Now here's the C chord. Now normally when you play C down here, it's C because the lowest pitch note in the chord is a C, 3rd fret of the A string, A, B, C. But when I put this capo here on the 4th fret, do that same shape, now my lowest pitch note is here on the 7th fret of the A string, which is an E. So technically, this, even though it's a C shape, it's an E chord. So that's kind of the whole idea behind doing with the capo, is so that way you can still play your open chords, but in a different key. So a lot of times you'll see songs where they're capoed up just a little bit. Like one of the songs that I intended to go over tonight, and maybe we still will if we have time, and you can just write down the chord progression. It just slipped my mind, but it's Boulevard of Broken Dreams by Green Day. So that song, to be in the key they're in, you capo in the 1st fret. You're only going up a half step in pitch. So a lot of times when songs are done this way, it's because they're changing the key to accommodate a singer. So the singer, like, they're more comfortable if it's up in a little bit higher of a key, that you can use the capo. Okay, so as far as buying a capo goes, there are all kinds of different ones. So this is kind of your basic garden variety one. This is a Keisler, and you can buy one of these brand new for about $20. You know, they're right in that ballpark, about $20. Now, there are ones you can get for cheaper than this that instead of clamping on like this, they tie on, or they have some kind of like an elastic kind of a thing, and they're cheaper. But honestly, my advice is spend the extra few dollars and get this one. It is so much easier to use because you can quickly take it on and off, where those other ones, they're kind of a pain in the butt. Now, you can get ones that are fancier than this that cost more money. I don't remember the brand, but I remember seeing one at Guitar Center. This was probably 10 years ago or more. And instead of having this spring in here, this coil spring, because I mean, this is more or less kind of a glorified clothespin. It had like an actual little hydraulic shock. And it said on the packaging, Formula One race car suspension technology. And this capo was like $100. It doesn't make the guitar sound any different than this one does. So, I mean, it's just like anything else. You can pay as much as you want. So if you want to be able to say you have a $100 capo, go for it. But it's really unnecessary. This one will completely work just fine. Now, when you go to put this on, one of the things that I see people do is that they'll widen it out. I hope I'm trying to get here, so maybe this will help. So they'll put it on, and they'll put the part against the strings and then let this come up on the back. You don't want to put it on that way. You want to bring it up and kind of let the back come on, and then ease it down on the, whoops. The reason is because if you do it the other way, sometimes what will happen is I can't get it to do it. There's a little bit, it sounds a little bit out of tune. What it is that when you put it on like that, the string, and like instead of keeping it clamped straight, it'll be clamped at a little bit of an angle, which will make it sound like the guitar is out of tune. So you don't want that. They take a little bit of practice putting them, getting good at putting them on and off. I know that sounds like really silly, but it's true. I mean, it just gets easier. So we're going to put this on the 4th fret. And then our chords for this one, what were we doing? Oh yeah, the only exception. So for this one, we have a G, we have D minor, and we have C. Now here's another example of what we were talking about earlier about determining like how the strumming is going to be. So this one here, we look at it. First thing we want to notice is that it's in 3/4 time. So that means that we're going to only be counting to 3 in each measure instead of 4 like we have been. So we've got a quarter note and then 4/8 notes. So that's going to be counted 1, 2, and 3 and. So down, down, up, because we're going to play a downstroke on the quarter note, on the downbeat of 1, 1, and then the downbeat of 2, 2, and 3, and. So it's like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Down, 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 like that. Now this is a somewhat common of strumming pattern, but that's why it ticks me off that I forgot to put that Green Day song in here, because the thing that's funny about that is the first song I always teach beginners is Boulevard of Broken Dreams, because it uses a really simple strumming pattern called the universal strum that you can use for about anything. But anyhow, we'll still go over that. I think we're going to have enough time to be able to do that. Yeah. So for this song, like I said, the verse and the chorus is the same. We've got one measure of G, so 1, 2, and 3, and to D minor. Now, we talked a minute ago about making chord changes without having to lift off all of your fingers. So switching from G to D minor, our 3rd finger is already where it needs to be for D minor. So when I make that transition, I just remove my first, second, and fourth fingers and bring my first finger down and my second finger down. So we got that D minor. And then from this one to switch to C, we can't, unfortunately, we can't keep all of our fingers planted, but we can do this. All I'm doing is I'm moving my first finger from the first fret of the high E to the first fret of the B string, my middle finger from the second fret of the G to the second fret of the D, and then my third finger from the third fret of the B to the third fret of the A string. Can you play Wonderwall for us? Nobody wants to hear me play Wonderwall. Mostly, I don't want to hear me play Wonderwall. That song got old real quick, man. When that one and Champagne Supernova, where when they came out, it was like every kid that came through the door wanted to learn how to play those songs. But there are lessons for. I'm not sure if there's one for Wonderwall, but one of the other guys at Guitar Control just recently did Champagne Supernova, so it's there on the channel if you want to check it out. She's a Rainbow by the Stones. I actually do not know that song. Okay, so for this only exception, we start with G. So we have one measure of that. 1, 2, and 3, and to D minor. 1, 2, and 3, and then to C. And we're going to have two measures of this. 1, 2, and 3, and 1, 2, and 3. And then it just repeats. So that's like the entire song. So you're down, down, up, down, up, down, down, up, down, up, down, down, yeah, so that's pretty much the that's pretty much the whole song. Like I said, it's pretty repetitive, but the whole idea behind these was this is just to give you some songs. Like I said, you can play like right now. They're easy chords that hopefully you already know. Hopefully you already know all these first position chords. If you don't, then that's something you want to learn right away. There's numerous videos on Guitar Control's channel that go over these chords. You just want to know them, because if you know all of those chords and you learn a couple of basic strumming patterns, there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of songs that you can play that are just really, really, really simple. That just don't take very much practice to be able to get them down smoothly. All right, so before we move along, does anybody have any questions about that one? Yeah, that would be cool. I'll have to check that out. I never thought about that before doing an acoustic version of Numb. That's another thing too that's like really cool to do, is that you can take lots of like songs that are like heavier and you can make like unplugged versions of them really easy. All right, so for this next one, I do not need my capo anymore. Oh, and just a little something too. This kind of goes back to somebody asked earlier about fretwear. When you are not using your capo, don't leave it on the guitar. So like if you just like keep your, like this guitar is just sitting here on a stand, if you play using the capo a lot, or let's just say you're working on a song that you're capoing, don't leave the capo on there, like that. Don't store the guitar that way, because since it's pressing down with quite a bit of force, it's pressing the strings into that fret, and you can actually wear grooves in the fret by leaving it on. I mean, it isn't going to happen overnight. It happens over time, but that will do it for sure. I had somebody bring in, it was really cool. It was I can't remember what year. It was from the early 60s. It was a Fender 12-string acoustic guitar, beautiful guitar. And anyhow, it had been stored in the case upside down under a bed for years. And anyhow, from the weight of the guitar pressing to the strings, all of the fret wire was toast. I had to refret the entire guitar. It just cut notches into all of them. What do you mean by first and second position? It's basically on the guitar you have different positions that you play in. So like if you're playing with playing like here in first position, you can keep moving it around. That's why learning how to read music for guitar or fretted instruments is kind of a pain in the butt, because it isn't like the piano. When you look on the music and you see where the note is on the staff, there's one key that represents that. On a guitar or a fretted instrument, there's numerous places. So it makes it more difficult if you don't have the tab and you don't know how to read. Okay, so the next one we're going to look at here. Oh, and this is something too that I wanted to clarify to everybody. So the tabs for tonight is on 3 pages. So the second song on page 2, the one we're going to look at now, Old Time Rock and Roll by Bob Seger, it's continued on page 3. There wasn't enough room in this format to be able to get them all on a single page. So for this, we've got a similar strumming pattern actually to the last song, but now we're back in 4/4 timing. So we've got 4 beats per measure. So if we look at this one, we've got a quarter note, 2/8 notes, a quarter note, and 2/8 notes. So each measure is counted 1, 2, and 3, 4, and it starts off with a G. So it's like 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1, 2, and 3, 4, and. Now this is an example of like we're going to make like an acoustic rendition of a song that was normally, like, let's take those old records. It was a shuffle, but we're going to be doing it, a really simplified version of this. But with strumming, one of the things too with strumming is you want to get away from the thought process that that every song has just got this. You're just going to learn a bunch of strumming patterns and like, okay, this song uses strumming pattern number 12, and you're going to do that. That's true to a point, but you don't want to be stuck in this, thing of, so many downs, so many ups. It's kind of a thing you more want to kind of feel it out. So with this song here, if I'm playing it, just take those old records down, 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 down. Listen to myself. It gets you through the song, but it's a little bit bland. It's a little bit white bread. So if we wanted to, so what I'm kind of doing there is I'm just feeling my way through it. I'm like, I can hear the song in my head and the rhythm for it, and I'm kind of feeling my way through it. So I want to show you a way that you can actually get this technique down. Now, for some people, this is really easy. I've had students before that I literally just explained the concept and they just started doing it. and then other ones that were more like me, where I didn't get it. So this is how you can get it down. So I'm just going to use the back of my guitar here, but I'm sure that most of you are well versed, have lots of experience in countertop drumming, kitchen table drumming, right? Strumming is very similar to that. So if you put that song on and you were like tabletop drumming to the old time rock and roll, you'd be like, you make those old records off the shelf. So if you write down what you're doing, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, and translate that to strumming. So for most people, if you're right-handed. Now, if you're left-handed, even if you play the guitar right-handed and you're left-handed, you might still be more dominant to want to start with your left instead of your right. So if that's the case, like for me, I'm right-handed, so I always start, take all records off the shelf. So I'll write that down, right, left, right, left, right, or whatever the case may be. And then I'll translate to what right hand is a downstroke and left hand is an upstroke. So now you've got this strumming pattern. Down, down, up, down, down, up, down, 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 up, down, 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 up, whatever, it may be. And if you're left-handed, you might have to do it the opposite, where your left is the down and your right is the up. Because like I said earlier, you want, as a general rule, you're going to be starting your strumming as a downstroke and ending on an upstroke when you're changing chords. So you wouldn't want it to be the opposite, where you're trying to start with an up and then end on a down. For Western music. Now, if you're like looking at reggae's different. They play everything on the offbeat with upstrokes. That's a whole different animal. Got any tips for alternate picking? Yeah, alternate picking is super important. So there's tons and tons of different exercises that you can find on the web and stuff. And I've done several videos on alternate picking on the channel. But just a really simple one, 7, 8, 10 on the B string, and then 7, and you can do this anywhere. You could do it up here, just whatever is a comfortable spot. So I'm just going to go 7, 8, 10 to 7 on the first string and then back down. So if you think of this as it's 1, 2, 3, 4 notes, the pattern is 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 4, 3, 4, 3, 2, 1. You never do 2 notes in a row. You don't double up any of these notes. This is always a down. This is always an up. This is always a down. And now we're changing strings is an up. So if you're playing this, and then you all of a sudden realize, that's an upstroke, then you've made a mistake somewhere. Play it really slow. Use a metronome. First, get the sequence with your fretting hand memorized. Then you can watch your right hand to make sure you're actually alternate picking. And do it slow, because otherwise you want to make sure you're not practicing mistakes, because those are like way harder to fix later on. Believe me, from personal experience, it's a bugger if you have to fix it later on. Okay, so G, C, D, and then back to G. Okay. Yeah. So for this, if you were like, if you're like a beginner and you want to bust this song out tomorrow at the Thanksgiving hootenanny, then you could just do the strumming that's on here. So it's going to be down, down, up, down, down, up. So 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1, 2, and 3, 4. Oh, you're welcome. Like I said, there's a whole. If you just go onto the guitar controls, this channel, and if you just search alternate picking exercise, there'll be tons of them come up. Ones that I've done, ones that other people have done. But I did one that specifically on that. I'm pretty sure I did anyway. I've done hundreds on there, so I just don't remember for sure. Yeah, so you're going to have 2 measures of G. 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1, 2, and 3, 4, and then to C, 2 measures. 1, 2, 3, 4. D, 2 measures. Back to G. So we've got that build up. So if we're looking on the third, I got to switch to the other page. So when we come back to that last G, it's only 1 measure. And then we go to that D, and it's a whole measure of eighth notes. So it's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. And that's like the just a little time. And then you just go right back into it again. Like I said, it's really easy. And what I'd encourage you to do is work on it like that with that strum pattern, and then just try to kind of expand on that. Try to, really loosen up your arm over here. Don't be all super stiff. Something that can help with that too. A lot of beginners, they want to strum like this with their whole elbow. You don't want it so much in your elbow. You want it kind of be more in your wrist, so that way it can be nice and loose and give that flow that you're looking for in the music. It's not when you're playing by yourself. If you're just playing your acoustic guitar and people are singing, you are providing everything. You are the rhythm and you are the melody. So you don't want your everything to be like like that. Try to make it like try to get some dynamic in there, and it just takes time. There isn't really an exercise for this or anything. It's just mileage, and just want to just slowly work your way through it, and you'll get it. I mean, I've had thousands of students, and I never have had anybody that I thought, wow, you aren't going to be able to play guitar. I've never thought that. Now, is everybody going to become, Steve Vai, a virtuoso guitar player? No. But everybody can learn how to play, and then just get to whatever level that's your goal. I mean, there's so many different things that factor into this. All right. So there's one more song on here on the tabs that I want to show you, and that's Horse with No Name from America. This is the epitome of easy song because it's just 2 chords. So we have E minor, and then we have E7 suspended 4 over F sharp. So simply, whichever finger, if you're going to use, like here, this is how I play it, or if you're going to use these fingers to do E minor, it doesn't matter. To switch to that chord, you just move the note from the 2nd fret of the A string to the 2nd fret of the low E, and the one on the 2nd fret of the D to the 2nd fret of the G. And that's E7 suspended 4 over F sharp. So you have E minor. Like that. That's pretty much the whole song. So you have 1 measure of the E minor, and it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you switch to the E7 suspended 4 over sharp. You rest on the downbeat of 1, and you're and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So to kind of simplify that a little bit, to not make it so where you're trying to focus on that, is just kind of want to feel it. So if you just start off with just 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, and 3. Then you can kind of do that same thing with it. So that muted strum thing, though, what we're doing is I'm keeping my fingers just on for that chord, and then I'm just taking the palm of my hand here, and I'm muting the strings. Now you can also like release the pressure, just keep your fingers there, and then like maybe lay your first finger down like this. Don't press down on the strings, just touch them. So that way when you strum, you get that kind of percussive sound. But you don't have to play it like confined like that as far as the strumming goes. You can make it, you know. Really, really simple. So with that one, what I would recommend you do is, you know, practice making the transitions of those chords, and then put the song on and just kind of play along with it. And if you're just playing along with it, just trying to feel it. I know that sounds all cliche and everything, but it's true. Just kind of really feel your way through it. It's you'll get it. And learning how to play songs like this, these simpler songs too, also just makes your rhythm better. So that way when you go to move on and you're playing songs that are more advanced, you're not having to like wait for your strumming to catch up to it. I mean, you know, obviously it'll be a little bit of a learning curve because it's a new strumming pattern or more complex or whatever. Okay, so we are just about out of time, but I did want to show you that other thing really quick. So the thing that, like I said, is called the universal strum is basically, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4. So you're down, 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 up. Now, when you do that upstroke, you just want to hit the first 2 or 3 strings. So that way it's creating this ringing sound. So when you change chords, you don't have silence in between. So that Green Day song that I do with this is E minor, G, D, and A. So one pattern per chord. Or if you want to count it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And to be in the same key they're in, you need to be capoed on the first fret. But that strum, that's one that you really should like work on and get down, because you can use it for even songs that you don't like. If you got just someone says, oh, well, here, these 3 chords are this song, and you've heard the song, you're kind of familiar with it, but you don't know how to play it, you can do that universal strum, and it will work with like 99% of songs to kind of just fake your way through it. I do it all the time. It's really a simple way to do it. So like Knocking on Heaven's Door, G, D, C. And then you do it again, G, D, and then A minor, second time around. And that's just repeated over and over again. So if you take that strum, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, twice on the C and A minor. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Even though that's not necessarily the strumming that's for that song, you can get your way through it. You can do that with a lot of the ones that we've went over tonight. All right. Well, that went by pretty quick. So before we wrap this up, does anybody have any questions or anything that I might be able to answer for you? And if anyone is interested, I can't walk through them at the same time. If anyone is interested, I am currently accepting new students for online lessons that would be over the webcam through Google Meet. And if you are interested in that, then you can hit me up I just put my email address in there. Everybody is interested in that. But I'd like to thank everybody for coming out tonight. We had a good group, lots of interaction. That always makes it more fun for me, and it also makes it better for me. Having you people here, viewing and commenting and liking the video and stuff, sharing the video, subscribe to the channel. If you haven't already subscribed to Guitar Control's channel, hit that subscribe button and get the notifications. So that way, we upload new stuff all throughout the week. I usually have 2 or 3 lessons every week, new lessons that are published. By interacting, liking the video, all that good stuff, it shows them that I'm doing a good job and that I can continue to come and do this for you. So yeah, subscribe, like, share, the drill. Every YouTuber says it. But anyway, I would like to thank everybody that came out tonight, and I hope everybody has a great holiday weekend. And I will see you guys next Wednesday, same time. Anyway, thanks everybody for showing up. I appreciate it. Have a great night, everybody.